Okay, this is going to be really hard to talk about. Basically, if you're not, I'm going to do a short rant about you, not you, the guy that's scrolling right now, but I'm going to talk about this show on Netflix, which just came to its end. And I've been doing some projects around the house, so oftentimes I just want some show in the background. I've had you on in the background here, so I watched all 5 seasons of it. What do I think about it? I think it's a decent show. The issue is, I really am mixed on how I feel about this show. Part of me wants to say this show is awful and should have never been made in the first place. And another part of me goes like, I can't really see what you're trying to do here. And I'm told this is based on some sort of book series or something like that, which is fodder for a lot of Netflix and Amazon Prime series these days. But yeah, and this show's been on for quite a while, and I'm not sure how much breaks it took between its seasons, so it wasn't exactly like I grew up with it or like I have fond memories of it from when I first discovered it. In fact, basically when I first heard about this show, most people told me not to watch it, because if you're not familiar with the premise of this, it's about a stalker. And no one likes a stalker, do they? No. So you're wondering, like, how did they make a show about this? Well, you know, nobody likes killers either, but they made a show about a serial killer called Dexter. And I think the comparison between you and Dexter is very easily made. Both of them have this sort of narration thing going on where that's very flat, and they kind of are... I hesitate to use the word anti-hero, but... Because here's the thing about Dexter. Dexter was a man who realized that he liked to kill and eventually channeled that talent into killing other serial killers. Joe is a guy who's just sort of obsessed with finding the one in his life, and he's not consistent, is the whole thing. Dexter works because I think the character himself is rather consistent. And when life throws him curveballs, you will see him respond in a way that, and react in a way that is, I feel, very realistic. Joe is a man, I think, who I can't really like him, okay, is kind of the issue. Are there things about him that are relatable? Oh, yes. We've all had that feeling of infatuation and stuff like that. And the issue is, we know that if we want to basically get together with and in a relationship with someone, we do not go the lengths that Joe goes to. In the first season, Joe was essentially this bookstore owner in New York who meets, I think her name is Guinevere Beck, and the moment he sees her, he's just totally taken with her. Follows her on social media, learns where she lives, starts spying on her. And I have to admit, there were certain times in which he follows her so closely that I'm going like, don't you think you would have just ran into him or something like that? Because I'm seriously, Guinevere will go to a bar, and he's like in the back of the bar, just kind of hanging at the bar like this, you know, in like a hoodie or a cap or something like that, and just kind of like, you know. And I'm kind of going like, you would see that. I don't know why. You would just, I mean, I get it. If you're not looking for it, you wouldn't see it. But I'm kind of going like, a little conspicuous there, Joe. So I'm going to get into some spoilers here on some of the seasons. So if you don't want to watch this show, then hey. And if you have your own opinion on this show that differs from mine, or maybe you agree with me, please leave a comment. And don't forget to like and subscribe on this. Now, in the first season, Joe and Beck, they kind of, to me, I kind of felt like I was wondering where this show was going, because it feels like there's a lot of Netflix shows that start out only planned to have 1 season as a limited series, but then people like them so much that they pick them up for another season. And I sort of get the feeling like You was planned to have at least several seasons in mind, because I think the way they ended it, which was, well, Joe actually kills Beck. Now, I don't think this is actually shown, him killing Beck, but the one moment Beck finds out who he is and everything he's done, Joe locks her away in this glass-walled room he seems to have in like every season for some reason. And And then, of course, and then later on, he's talking about Beck in the past tense. So we realize that, yeah, he killed Beck. And that's going to be important later. Now, in season 2, Joe, for some reason, goes to Los Angeles. I don't really know why this was done. The shifting location was actually kind of good. And here's the thing. He's just sort of on to the next person is what happens. This happens a lot in Joe's life. When one person, and here's the thing about this that they show on You all the time. Joe will often hook up with somebody, and the person he was trying to get together with was named Love, and yeah, I guess, I mean, to me that feels like more of a placeholder than an actual name, but yeah. He gets to know this person and starts to fall for them, and yeah, they sort of have an adventure there. By the way, Jenna Ortega's in season 2 of this. I didn't know that, so I was kind of watching the show and it's like, is that Jenna Ortega? Because, I mean, she's a big megastar now, so it's kind of interesting they had her there, and she's only in that one season, and honestly, we never really see closure on that character, so weird. Anyway, so here's the thing. The thing about Joe is I think he goes through the entire season before settling down with Love. And by the time we even start, I think even it's the second season, he's already starting thinking about who he's going to be with next. He's got this next obsession in line. And the third season, it's with him and Love in suburbia, and they've had a child together, and they're raising him. And Love kind of goes a bit nuts, and she actually tries to take out Joe, and then Joe has to take her out. And then Joe has to play dead, which leads to the season 4, where he goes to England, which I don't really like this season, because the thing about Joe is he always seems to associate himself with like billionaires or people who are related to billionaires. That's who Love was. Love came from money. And apparently Joe got involved with this other woman named Kate, who is also into money and gets a whole group of friends who are completely, well, they're the 1%. I mean, I can tell that where this was going. And this isn't the same season where Joe starts hallucinating. He starts to see as this person who's kind of guiding him along. And there was a person who was like leaving him text messages, and I could tell that there was going to be some big twist, and the big twist was going to be him. So Joe sort of gets a Tyler Durden in that season, which I don't really think was a very smart move. And I think season 4 is probably the worst of the season. So naturally we go back, but it did give us this. Joe manages to marry a woman named Kate, and since Kate has so much money, Joe is able to revive his identity, because in season 3, after Joe had killed Love, he leaves DNA evidence behind to show that he had died, and he wants to essentially start a new life. And that's what he did in England, and that life caught up to him, something like that. And apparently he wanted to, because here's the thing, when Joe was with Love, immediately he started cheating on her. And when Joe was with Kate, immediately he seems to start cheating on her. And I just go like, okay. This is where Joe meets Bronte, a person who's working at his bookshop, because Joe recently opened the bookshop again. And from here, Joe begins to believe that he's found his final boss, really. So, Bronte is really going to be the one. Of course, Joe is always fascinated with this, and it's always like, it's crazy. Well, apparently Bronte was actually a good friend of Beck, and I bring this up here because this is where I get into some heavy spoilers, is that Bronte does not trust Joe, but she loves him, and there's kind of that relationship. And usually this happens with Joe's mates, is that when he finally hooks up with them, and then they discover who Joe really is, and then at some point in time they say, well, I guess I'm comfortable with that, and then until they're not. By the way, they brought back Joe's son, Henry, and Joe's trying to get Henry back, but honestly, they didn't really establish that he has a really good relationship with him, so I'm kind of glad. I really liked the ending of the show because it felt very inspiring, hearing Bronte talk about how they're going after all the Joes in the world and stuff like that, and Joe's sins did catch up with him. I don't want to see Joe again, honestly. I'm sure there's going to be some movie or something like that, but honestly, I think you should just let this go, really.